Bobby was a JV as a sophomore, and he was behind our state champion. And in New York at the time, you could put 2 guys in each weight class at the end of the tournaments. So Bobby was a JV guy. He made it all the way to the finals of our sectional championship, lost to the eventual state champ, who walked through the New York States. So as a junior, Bobby came back, and Bobby, like I said, very competitive, hard working, this and that. And Bobby started doing something in the locker room, that he started visualizing that he was in the state finals up in Syracuse, New York. They'd have a big auditorium, and the announcer, when you would talk, it would always be an echo. So Bobby would walk around the locker room and say, "In the state finals, at 126 pounds, and at first we would crack up, laugh, you know, and then when we started getting old, then every day Bobby would walk around and say, "State finals, Bob Antonacci." And guess who was in the state finals that year? Bobby Antonacci. That you have to, we do a lot of visualizing, right? We get them on their mat, on their back after their practice, and we have them close their eyes, and we ask you to visualize yourself hitting that double leg. Visualize yourself being successful, because you have it so much, such mental. We all know that, right? But it's life too, right? Faith. We talked about faith last night, right? Faith is believing before it happens. Everyone else says, "When I see it, I'll believe it." See, that's not how faith is. Faith is believing it before it happens. Of thanking God before He does it, before He answers your prayer. When you answer His prayer after He does it, that's called gratitude. Faith is believing before it happens. So you need to lead a life of faith. You need to teach these kids how important is being successful. How many times have you looked in a kid's face and they lost the match before they stepped out on the mat? They say, "Oh, look at that guy's arms. Oh, we got Russell, a black guy. Oh, we got Asians out in California. Oh, we went karate chopping." So it's so important that we talk about that, and then Bobby was great. Before we go on a booklet, let's talk about Russell real quick. Okay? And you know, we're lucky that we have clinics, we have all this stuff on the internet. I just want to talk to you a little bit about, I started wrestling when I was 3. I'm 63. I've been to NCAA championships the last 40 years. I've been to 3 different Olympic games. I'm a wrestling freak. I love wrestling. I'm addicted to it. I love it. And I watch. So I try to learn all the time. And these are some of the things that I've come up with. Number 1, you don't need to know a lot of moves to be a champion wrestler, right? You need one takedown that you can take everyone down. 1. If you think of Jordan Burroughs, what do you think of? Double leg, man. He's going to hit that double leg. The other night when he wrestled and beat the streets, the Cuban knew, or the Italian knew that the double leg was coming. And at first he stopped it early, but when that match was on the line, Jordan Burroughs hit that double leg, match was over like that. You have to teach these kids one takedown that they can take everyone down with. Now, you need 5 setups. You need 5 finishes. You have to be able to do the move if he puts left leg lead or right leg lead. You have to be able to do it when they tie up or when they're far away, when they're tall. You got to have one takedown that you can take everyone down with. Coaches try to teach too many moves. That's my philosophy. You try to teach too much. Singles and doubles. It's all about singles and doubles. And kids are afraid to wrestle freestyle. Hey, freestyle is all about singles and doubles. Don't get them worried about all the scoring and gut wrenches and stuff like that. It's all about singles and doubles. And the more that I see wrestling, the more I love singles and doubles. When the kid starts trying to high crotch, there's so many bad things that can happen. If you're not in a perfect technical position with a high crotch, you're going to get beat. Singles and doubles. You can shoot a double when he stops. You can go to a single. You can go to a single and cut to a double. But it's all about singles and doubles. That's my philosophy. One takedown, you can take everyone down with. One pinning combination that it doesn't matter what the score is. You can be getting beat by 14 points if you have that one pinning combination, you can win. Now, I don't want the whole team to do the same pinning combination, but you have to teach the kid one pinning combination. My dad, when Bobby Antonacci went to Iowa State, my dad sent 2 wrestlers there. First he sent Carl Adams, who was a 2-time national champ, inventor of the takedown machine, lives here in North Carolina now. Okay? So Carl went, all of a sudden Iowa State comes back to my dad and says, "You got any more guys?" My dad said, "I got a guy named Bobby Antonacci." And he also had a guy named Pete Gallia. Has anyone ever heard of Pete Gallia? Pete Gallia was a cradle guy. He was terrible on his feet. But back in the 60s, you didn't have a choice of choosing neutral. It was either top or bottom. And we all said top. And Pete was going to cradle you. He was long and lean, he would cross-face cradle you. So when he went to Iowa State, my dad calls up Coach Harold Nichols after a month. And my dad says, "How are my boys doing?" And he said, "You know, Bobby Antonacci, he's going to be tough." He said, "The other guy, Gallia, he's only got one move, a cradle. He's not going to do that good." Pete Gallia broke Dan Gable's pinning record as a freshman. Pinned 21 guys with a cradle. Okay? One pinning combination, I don't care what it is, but you have to teach them over and over again. And here's what I love. I love front cradles. Near cradle, front cradle, whatever you call it. I love front cradles. More studs get pinned in a front cradle than any other pinning combination. Arm bars and all this stuff is good, but if you watch, did anyone watch NCAAs this year? You watch the Giacomolas hit that front cradle? Huh? You have to teach a kid a near side cradle or a front cradle. You got to have that front cradle in your arsenal. More people get pinned to that. Let's go back to our feet. Let's go back to our feet. One takedown. Here's the most common mistakes. Number one, high school kids are too high in their stance. You have to teach these kids to get down low. If you watch college wrestlers, Kyle Dake, he's like this. College wrestlers have their hands down in the mat. You have to teach these kids to get low. High school kids are not low enough in their stance. And you're winning the match in the third period. If you get down in a good low stance, you're going to take their shot away. They have to get in shape that they can get down low in their stance. High school kids are too high in their stance. Number two, if a kid shoots and doesn't get the takedown, the number one reason is his penetration step. You have to get kids to step. Okay? Number one mistake that high school kids make is they don't penetration step enough. You have to get them to step. Now, college guys, they're wrestling head to head, so college guys won't step, they'll knee drop. But a high school kid has to learn to step. You have to practice that all the time, is stepping. When they watch their video, and the cool thing is about phones, that they can video their matches, ask them to watch their matches, and when they shoot and they don't get the takedown, ask them what kind of penetration step they have. You have to get these kids to step. So important, penetration step. The last thing on your feet is you have to teach them to circle. So many times, kids don't circle the right way. If you know a guy has a single leg coming, you have to circle away from that single leg. Real easy. So you have to teach the kids the importance of circling. Defense, when a guy hits a single leg on you, you got to circle the opposite way. So you have to teach those three things. Number one, get low in your stance. Number two, the importance of good penetration step. You have to teach young kids how to do that. And number three, circle, the importance of circling. Okay? And see what I do when I go to a camp, the first question, one of the questions I ask them, and I say, how many of y'all would love $1 million? And boom, every kid raises their hand. And then I said, how many of y'all would love $1 million if you were going to take away your legs, you can't run, you can't surf, you can't do this and that, you know, probably girls won't, so I tell them, I lead up to the story about my son getting paralyzed. And then I said, how many of y'all would still love $1 million? And we have a couple kids kids still raised their hand. They've never been around a wheelchair person. So I said, in other words, your legs are worth $1 million. And then I teach defense. I teach a lot of defense. So what I'll say is, don't let them touch your $1 million legs. And I'll remind them that their legs are worth $1 million to them. So on defense, don't let them touch and if they touch your legs, you got to muffle up. Right? I'll make these sayings that kids will learn. And they'll think about $1 million legs and muffing the guy up. And daring the guy, go ahead, take that leg. You take my leg, I'm going to muff you up, you touch my leg. Right? You got to make it fun. You got to make it things that they can remember. You got to remind them that living a life of appreciation. When they don't want to run, remember my son. So, those are the things on your feet. Talking on top, one pinning combination. If you can teach your kids to ride on what I call the wrong side, and everyone does it on the regular side, on the left side. If you can just get them to ride on the wrong side, put an advantage. Everyone can switch this way. Everyone can grab me over their left shoulder. They can't do it over this shoulder. You have to teach kids to ride on what I call the wrong side. Get on that side. What an advantage. Little things to get them to ride on the other side, on the wrong side. And here's my question to you. Everybody look at me real quick. Coaches, what percentage of time do you practice on your feet? Who would raise their hand and be honest and tell me, what percentage of time do you practice on your feet? 80%. 80%. Very common. Would everyone agree between 65 to 80% of time on your feet? Okay, that is a very common thing. Here's the problem. When the match is tied 3-3 in the third period, it's your choice. What are you going to choose? Down. Right? So there's so many times in the match that a kid has to get out. But wait a second, you spend 80% of the time on your feet. So you have to get out. You have to learn. You got to spend more time in your practice. You got to teach them how to get out. You know what we say? If you get rode, you get beat. That's a saying we say. Yeah, Bob.
Hey, one thing I noticed this year working with UNC, a lot of the kids couldn't ride. They just cut the kid. Like in crucial situations, they could not ride with you, and it cost them.
And it's so funny because California, we're known as a state on our feet all the time. So when we go and wrestle Pennsylvania kids, we can't go down. I'll never forget, Fresno State asked me to go and be their team chaplain this year. We went to the Virginia Duels, and we had to wrestle Lock Haven in the first match. And it's 3-3, and I'm sitting way in the back, just watching and cheering everyone. Tell me how long I got, I'll do that, man. So December 2016, that's when I retired from teaching and coaching. So then all of a sudden I said, well, what am I going to do now? I'm a surfer. Yeah, I love surfing. Go play golf. Remember I told you, when I look at that old picture, I know I'm not doing much time on the surf. So I got to use the gifts that God has blessed me with to honor Him. I got to serve God. So I do that by going to high school wrestling rooms. I'll never forget, I went to 125 different rooms all around California. And I walk in the room with my wrestling shoes. And I say, hey, Coach. And he first look at me, what do you want? I said, Coach, I'm here to serve you. Okay, good. How can I help you, Coach? And the first thing I look at me, I put my shoes on. And then they say the magic words. Would you like to show a move? Let's go! It's on now, man! I'm talking about $1 million legs. Can you imagine? Our sport is the only sport that a guy off the street can come into a practice and take over practice. You can't do that in football or baseball or basketball. Are you kidding me? We got that power. That I can go in and tell these kids, man, you can be a champion. Right? I get done and the coach says, man, that was awesome. The kids say, when are you coming back? I walk out in the parking lot and I say, thank you, God. Thank you for doing that. I went to an internet wrestling company that sold wrestling equipment. And I asked them to financially support me. and they said, you know, you're a Christian organization. No school is going to let you on their campus. I said, oh, really? That's the motivation I needed. I went to 125 different schools. And then it's so cool when I go to a tournament, just like Bobby does now. When he goes to a tournament, here's all these coaches that I know, here's all these wrestlers that I've been, and they all come up, hey, coach! Remember my dream? My dream was to be a coach. So when I hear someone say, hey, coach, oh, I love that. I miss that. So I've been so lucky. Fresno State, good relationship. They came down for a wrestling camp in San Diego. I knew these kids had never wrestled before. I got all my surfing buddies together. We got 30 surfboards, and we took all the Fresno State teams out for a surf session. Brought them over to my house. My wife was up till midnight cooking pulled pork and all the food like we had last night. They came over. They eat all night. I forgot how much college wrestlers could eat. They left me some baked beans. That's the only thing I got. And then I was so lucky because I went to the Vegas tournament. Here at this big tournament, all of a sudden Bobby comes over and Troy Steiner's the head coach at Fresno State. And I said, Troy, see what Carolina's doing? They got a chaplain. I bring over the Virginia Tech chaplain. Troy, see what they're doing? They're bringing a chaplain. All of a sudden I get a phone call from Troy saying, hey, will you come to the Virginia Duel and be our chaplain? I said, yeah. Look at me. Never before, I'm a wrestling historian, never before in the history of the United States wrestling have we ever had so many of our greatest wrestlers and greatest coaches as followers of Jesus Christ. Never before! Jordan Burroughs, Snyder, Tomasello, Bo Jordan, all these different guys are both Olympic men's coach and Olympic women's coach are strong Christians. We have an opportunity now. We have an opportunity. God's given us an opportunity to not only teach wrestling, but teach more importantly how God can change people's lives. That's what y'all have to do. It's not about singles and doubles. It's not about singles and doubles. Okay? It's more important things. Okay? So the best way for fundraisers is we hold the tournament. And I try to think, what can I do unique to hold the tournament? So you know what we do? We have the San Diego County JV Championships. Because everyone thinks about the varsity, y'all forget about the JV and the freshmen. I want to give the JV wrestlers something to look forward to at the end, that they can walk around and say, oh, I'm a county champ. So I get 29, 30 schools to come to a tournament, and we try to run a first-class tournament that I have everyone involved in our program is going to be there. We have weigh-ins that are to be done in 10 minutes. We have 8 different scales. Bring your own scale, we say to the coach. Weigh-ins quick. And then we have a coach's lunch, man. I have all Filipinos. I have a very multicultural school. So I tell them to bring, we call it a multicultural lunch. And when the coaches come there, they come to my tournament. One reason, because we run an organized tournament. We have the best lunch for them that they're going to come. Varsity coaches that aren't even there, they'll come just at lunchtime just so they can have our lunch. Right? They haven't had lumpia and all this other Filipino food. So it's very important. And then you got to get, different things. Title sponsors, so important. My buddy is Nick Gallo, he works for ASICS. I'm a loyal ASICS man. No company has given more money to wrestling than ASICS. And back in the day, everyone wore ASICS. Now what's happening is Nike is coming in. Nike is now giving millions and millions of dollars of these big colleges. Now everyone's wearing Nike. Iowa, they were always wearing ASICS. Now they're all wearing Nike. Because it's money, they don't care about wrestling. They got the money. So I'm a big ASICS guy. So my buddy, so he'll bring me all different ASICS banners and posters and things like this. So you have to be organized. I do the seating. I'm the seating committee. I don't know how y'all do it at lower level. I'm the seating committee. Nothing worse than going to a tournament and then you got to go to a seating meeting for JV guys. You know, you're kidding me? So I got it all planned. I got the computer, my wife on the computer, she's the MVP. If she goes down, our tournament's in trouble. So I tell all the other coaches, don't be talking about wife. Right? So while we do the computer, we got it organized. Like I said, we got a 32-man double elimination first guy out. And if you lose in the first round, we'll get you another match. So each guy's assured of 2 matches. But then we have 2/3 and 2/4 top 6 guys get medals. We name the awards. Most pins in the least amount of time, the Steve and Neil Award. We'll have Steve come and hand out the awards. We call the outstanding wrestler the Dan Gable Award. Right? So you gotta make it. That's a great way of fundraising. You know what we do? We get parents on the side of the mat and they take pictures. And then we'll have in the foyer of the gym all the pictures. So when the parents come and watch, they can see action pictures. They can buy the action picture. We make $3 to $4 grand just by doing that. So you have to do unique things to make sure that your team comes. That's how you're going to fundraise. Okay, you got to be very important with that. Donations for the concessions, fundraising. God, you know what we did? We did a calendar. I don't know what your best fundraiser is. We did a calendar. Well, I tried to think of what every house has. They got calendars. So what we did is we got the photography class to take pictures. You took pictures of all the different sports teams, the cheerleaders, the band, and now every month, boom, there's their picture on the calendar. And then we said, would you like your birthday, your name on the calendar for your birthday? And they said, yeah, we'd tell them. So all of a sudden, all the kids had to go out and get 20 names of birthdays, putting the birthday on the calendar. You think if their birthday's on the calendar, you think they're going to buy a calendar? Heck yes! So we were able to sell 1,000 calendars. We make $4 grand by calendars. Real easy. Everyone needs a calendar. Okay? Fundraising sucks. I hate it. All right, let's go at the back. Last thing. End of the year banquets. Right? You got to hook up, number 2, you got to hook up the parents, man. They're a part of the family. They do a lot for your program. Don't be afraid to spend extra money on helping the parents. Okay, you gotta recognize them. We always want our coaches to say nice things about the kids. I've had some assistant coaches that didn't even know who the kid was. And, oh yeah, he had a great season, tried real hard, thank you very much. Come on, man. The parents came to listen to you say something nice about their kid. Sometimes, coaches, you gotta take notes. You gotta, during the season, you gotta say nice things about that. And that's where the stats comes in, man. If you can give them a little something about their stats, then you got to reward your assistant coaches, man. They can just walk out, now you're in trouble if you're a head coach. You got to make those assistant coaches know how much you appreciate them. You know, you can go bring them shirts. We love shirts, right, man? I love shirts. So if you can do something for that assistant coach to keep around, very important. And then spring, number 1. You got to make up for lost time with your family. I thought I was a pretty good dad. My wife has been reminding me all the time that I missed during the season. I said, wow, not that bad. You know, one of the first questions that I asked you in the front of the book, I asked you number 3, what are the top 3 priorities in your life? And I want you to be honest. You know, this is just between you, what you know. What are the top 3 priorities in your life? And I got a new t-shirt this year, and it said faith, family, wrestling. Faith, family, wrestling. And you have to ask yourself, is that really your priority? Okay? All the good things you have in your life is a gift from God. Okay, that's got to be number 1. And again, you can't fool God. He's got to be number 1 in your life. You know, 17,000 people a day die of car accidents. Right? And with the rain, y'all came back. You think you made it back safely because you're a good driver? You kidding me? God's got a plan for you. If not, He would have taken you already. God's got a plan for your life. He's got to be number 1 in your life. And kids got to know that. They're watching you. You got to be a role model. You got to let them see you. Let them see you go through the struggles. We all have struggles. God's got to be number 1. Family's number 2. The devil wants to destroy your family. A bunch of my daughters, my young daughter getting married. I had to remind him, nothing worse than having this boy say he wants to marry your daughter. This little girl. I was carrying on my shoulders all the time. This boy says he wants to marry my daughter. Really? Family. You gotta make sure that part of the wrestling program. If you keep them up, they become all different things. And we gotta do that, it's very important. And then wrestling comes to it, right? More than likely getting managed. Boxing was a doubles. I'll teach you about that. My guy can hook you up. Different things that we have, you know. You got to go to the track meets. I love going to the track meets and the baseball games and supporting my boys there. You got to go out there and support them. Very important strength program. We have middle school programs in the springtime, so we send our kids down there. And nothing like going to a camp, going with your kids, going to a camp, or you know, you're so lucky you can get some of these hero wrestlers. You let them come to your school for a couple days and learn more. And then here's the chance that they get to meet these guys and ask them questions. What's it like to be a college wrestler? Do you think I have a chance? Right? You guys are lucky to have all these wrestlers. You got 2 of the 3 coaches are strong Christians. 2 of the 3 are New Yorkers. That's not better. Okay? Going to graduation, man. We make it a promise that we're going to graduation. And then you know what we do? We said, okay, not only are we going to go to graduation, we're going to meet underneath the goalpost and we're going to take a family picture together. And the alumni know we're all going to be there. All the alumni come back, and then we get a big family wrestling picture together at graduation every year. You got to go to graduation. Very important. And then summertime, man, you got to have fun. You got to get away sometime. You got to make it fun. Any questions? I'm going to finish with one last story. I'll finish with 2 stories. I got my shirts, Wrestlers for Christ shirts. And I got to say, I told you, I went, first day, I went to this church, Mike McIntosh talking about how he was a high school wrestler. Next week I went back and the assistant pastor told this story about 40 wrestlers for Christ. Look at me, please. Got to be a storyteller. Got to learn how to tell stories. That's how you're going to get kids. So I want to tell you how we got this wrestlers for Christ. Okay? Back in the Roman Empire, there was an emperor named Nero. Okay? Now Nero was whacked out. Nero even had his mother assassinated. Okay? So Nero, what he used to do is he used to dip Christians in oil and set them on fire for lights at night. Nero was whacked out. So Nero, of course, he wanted bodyguards. He wanted the baddest guys to be his bodyguards for wherever he went. And I'll tell you what, he didn't get basketball players. Right? He would go to the arena and see who the baddest guys in the arena was, and he said, boom, these 40 guys, you're my bodyguards, and guess what? They were wrestlers. So the group of bodyguards, the group of wrestlers, they had a coach. His name was Vespasian. So all of a sudden Nero heard that these other people, they were following a guy named Jesus Christ. And they said, I'm making a proclamation that if anyone claims to be a follower of Jesus Christ, you're going to be put to death. Well, Vespasian, he was the coach. He was close to all these guys, just like you guys are with your team. And Vespasian said, listen, I just got an order from Nero, and he said that if any of you are followers of Christ, I got to put you to death. Everybody line up. So the 40 wrestlers got online, and he said, if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, take 1 step forward. Bam! All 40 wrestlers take 1 step forward. They said, wait a second, you don't understand. I got to put you to death. If not, I'm going to be put to death. I'll give you a little bit of time to think about it. Everybody line up on the line. If you're a follower of Jesus Christ, step forward. Bam! All 40 step forward. They were on a frozen lake, and Vespasian said, here's what you're going to do. You're going to take all your clothes off, you're going to march to the center of the lake, and you're going to die in the center of the lake. So all 40 wrestlers take off their clothes, and they march to the center of the lake. 40 wrestlers for Christ. 40 wrestlers for Christ. And Vespasian was in a fire, staying nice and warm, and he could hear his guys off in the distance saying 40 wrestlers for Christ. And then in the middle of the night, he heard 39 wrestlers for Christ. And as Vespasian was next to the fire getting nice and warm, one of the wrestlers had decided he didn't want to die. And he crawled all the way back to sit next to the fire to get warm. And when Vespasian heard 39 wrestlers, he stood up, took off all of his clothes, and marched to the center of the lake, where he died with the other 40 wrestlers for Christ. So I wanted to make a t-shirt for all the wrestlers that come to our FCA camps. That your school will let you down, your coach will let you down, but Jesus Christ will never let you down. And we ask them to do one thing. When they make it to the finals, we want you to wear your Wrestler for Christ t-shirt. 15 years ago, I was at our state qualifier and I was sitting in the stands. And I was a little bit mad at God, because we only had 2 state qualifiers. And Poway had 14. I said, God, didn't you see that we trained twice a day for 8 months? And these kids are crying because they didn't reach the goal. I was mad. And there was 2 matches left over. And this guy was wrestling 220-pounder. And he was from a part of San Diego that no one followed it. Right? So no one was cheering for this guy. Except for one man. He was yelling, "Come on, Bobby! Come on, Bobby!" So I looked and here was Bobby. Bobby's singlet was all torn up. His coach didn't know anything about wrestling. They only had 8 kids in their whole program. And the guy said, "Come on, Bobby!" All of a sudden, Bobby in the 3rd grade didn't have any technique. The other guy took a bad shot. Bobby spun behind. At the end of the match, got a takedown and won. The father's jumping down and going, "Hey, Bobby, how'd it go, Bobby?" All of a sudden, he turns around and looks at me and says, "It's because of you he won." And I'm looking around, "Bobby?" He said, "You taught him everything he knows at FCA camp." And I go, "Wow." And I look, and there's Bobby putting on his Wrestler for Christ shirt. And then I remember Bobby. Bobby came to camp and he was telling the story how his father was a clean alcoholic, how he would come home and beat up his mother. His mother was a drug addict and she would do tricks to get money for her drugs. And there was Bobby, standing up on the victory stand. First person from his high school to ever win the section champion with his Wrestler for Christ shirt. There's more important things than singles and doubles. You have to teach it. You have the opportunity to change people's kids' lives. I'll finish with this last one. It was a couple years back and it was my wife's birthday. And in fact, my wife and my daughter were born on the same day. And I said, "What would you like for your birthday?" And my wife said, "I'd like a puppy." I go, "A puppy? We already got a dog." She says, "I want a beagle puppy." Have you ever seen beagle puppies? They're cute, right? So I looked all over San Diego for a place that sold beagle puppies. So I drove 45 minutes away to this place called El Cajon where they said there was a sign, "Beagle puppies for sale." I went in and checked them all out. I said, "Okay, I'll be back tomorrow." The next day I went home and I made up a lie. I told my wife, "Our friend's car broke down. They're way out in El Cajon. We got to save them." And in fact, they got their little baby with them. So we got to go get them. So my daughter said, "Oh, the baby's there?" So they all jumped in the car. We're driving for 45 minutes. All of a sudden we come to this house and there's a sign, "Beagle puppies for sale." When my daughter saw that, oh man, they were so happy. We went in and got a beagle puppy. They're so cute, man. I was the king that day. I hate that freaking dog. I got an obese beagle. I hate that dog. I'm a dog lover. Right? She doesn't come when you call. She pees in the house. When you tell her to go outside, she'll limp and give you this dirty look. But man, when it's dinner time, she's dancing like Michael Jordan. It's Father's Day. I was thinking about it. You know, I talked about at the end about what is your dream? What is your dream? I dreamed about being a coach. And I go back to my school and I hear, "Hey, Coach Campo." Right? Then I dreamed about going to California. Then I went to California, and in 1983, I heard of this new sport that they were going to do that involved swimming, biking, and running. And I said, "Man, that sounds pretty cool. I think I'm going to go in this race." It's called a triathlon. So in 1983, I went into my first triathlon. That fall, I watched ABC, Wide World of Sports, and here was this race called the Hawaiian Ironman Triathlon. And I said to myself, "Man, wouldn't that be cool if I could do that one day?" So I told my friends, and they laughed. They said, "You can never do that. You've had 13 surgeries on your body. You've had 5 knee operations, 2 shoulder operations. You can never do that." And I said, "You know what? One day, I'm going to do that." I had a dream in my heart. I never was able, when I asked you to stand up, if you ever won that big tournament, I won one tournament my whole life. Sophomore year, Farmingdale Christmas tournament. So I never had that chance, that athletic thing that I could think about. So I trained, man. I trained. For 8 months, I would ride my bike 100 miles. I would do all this stuff. And then, at 55 years old, I went into the Ironman Championships in Arizona, where I had to get in the water with 2,800 other people at the same time to swim 2.4 miles. The first half mile, I'm getting kicked in the head, punched in the head. All of a sudden, I get out of the water. I go to run and get on my bike for a 112-mile bike ride. It's raining, 20-mile winds. I got my head down on paddling. All of a sudden, I look up and there's a big old pothole in the ground. I swerved to get away from the pothole because it was slippery. Man, fell down, blood coming down my shoulder, down my leg. I get up now, I got to run a full marathon. I get my shoes on and run out, and my family's all cheering. Hey! I said, no, I fell. I fell. Everybody, and then I had to run a full marathon. I was walking, and one of my trusting friends was riding by next to me, saying, come on, you can do it. And all of a sudden, this fine-looking girl went running by. I'm watching her rear end. Sorry, God. I'm watching her rear end. I'm saying, get your eyes up. Get your eyes up. And then, 200 yards from the finish line, there's my whole family waiting for me, seeing me. And then I turned, there's the finish line. 12 hours, 15 minutes. I go running down, and all of a sudden the announcer, who was from San Diego, said, Jose Campo from San Diego, California. This is his first Ironman. Jose, you are an Ironman. I said, yeah. And God has put dreams in your heart. I don't care how old you are. God has put dreams in your heart. He's given you everything it takes to answer those dreams. That if you can learn to work hard, teach these kids that their choices have consequences. I'm telling you, I've had 7 kids die of drug and alcohol problems before the age of 25. The hardest thing is going to their funeral when their parents say, you were closer to my son. Will you speak at my son's funeral? I had to do that for 7 kids. And it's one thing if they're Christians and I can tell them, explain about heaven, but some of them weren't. What are you going to say? You're going to lie? They're in a better place? Come on, man. Faith, family, wrestling. Okay? I have my contact information. Bobby and I, we want to help you, man. We want to help you. We know what you're doing is hard. And we'll do anything we can to help you. Okay? If you ever come to California, please look me up if you have any questions. My phone number is here. I've never been able to do something like this before. So I'm so grateful for Bobby for having the confidence and bringing me down here. For you men that aren't wrestling coaches, that you came here to listen to be a bunch around wrestling coaches, I admire you for doing that. And I pray that next year you have the greatest year that you've ever had. Okay? God bless you. Thank you very much.
Just, do you guys have any questions for Jose? Anything you wanted to ask him? Or, you know, I'm sure somebody has something maybe you guys thought maybe to ask, or anybody really have something. Sure.
Just out of curiosity, how many, are you guys considered regional coordinators or wrestlers, state coordinators? How does that work?
You know, FCA wrestling started probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and then they came to us and they met me when I still had 3 years left to go, and asked me if this is what I would do. And remember, I hate fundraising, and I've been around FCA for 23 years. I was a huddle leader at my school for 23 years. I taught at the wrestling camp. And they asked if I was doing it, and my wife and I was in Bakersfield driving home, and we laughed the whole way home. saying, no way are we going to do this. You know why? Because we have to fundraise for all of our things that we do, whether it's our salary, whether it's buying Bibles, we got to fundraise. I'm sick to a wrestling coach, that's a dirty word, fundraise. So I said, no, I don't want to do it, no way. And you know what happened? God changed my heart. For 3 years, when I'd wake up and do my morning devotions or when I'd go to church, and God changed my heart. He said, you know what? It's not about you. I'm going to do this for you. So what happens is I'm the West. There's only 5 guys in the whole country, maybe 6 around the world, 1 in Russia, Ukraine. But there's only 5 of us in the whole country that are doing it. I'm the most West guy from St. Louis. I have the whole state of California. So like I said, we have to fundraise to do everything. It was, look at it. We didn't get in coaching for the money, right? And I'm not doing this for the money. I know that God pushed me that way. He's going to bring people into my life just like He brought me into my life. But this is what we do. And Bobby's so lucky that he gets to go around North Carolina. I try to get up to Fresno State. It's 5.5 hours away from me. So I focus on, I have what I call a coaches mentoring program that I try to get young coaches, and I meet with them all the time, and I try to share some of the things that we're talking about. Because young guys, they want to win. It's a lot of time their identity is based on what the record is. So to teach a young kid like that, so this is what we do.
So you, your responsibility or your mission, I guess, would be to mentor coaches. You have the FCA camp, the wrestling camp, and what else is there that you guys do?
Well, speaking at schools, we'll go to schools and speak to churches. This food coaches clinic is part of it. For you guys, if you guys don't know, we are doing an FCA wrestling camp at UNC June 14th and 16th. I've been trying to get the information out. I think I have like 40 kids signed up already. My goal is to get like 100 kids to camp. So if you have kids, individuals, hey, it's $150 for 3 days. You stay there 2 nights. They feed you 5 days. And I'm not making a penny, but I'm just hoping to break even. And but we want kids to come. And if any of you guys want to come as coaches, let me know, and we'll have you come. And that's another thing we do. We also have some other responsibilities, Greg. Like I'm here with the Research Triangle, which is Raleigh. But wrestling, it's really wild. I'm part of the FCA Raleigh group, but I'm also FCA wrestling, trying to grow North Carolina, South Carolina. Jose's trying to grow California, and and we're looking to get other people to be involved, to do the same thing in their area. And
other things that I've done, California is the only state that has junior college wrestling in the fall. Okay, so we used to have 88 schools in wrestling. Because of Title IX, we have 21 now. So we only have 1 junior college in San Diego, and no one goes to the matches. It's in the fall. There's no excuse why a high school team won't go. So I went to the coach last year, and I said, this is crazy. I said, I'm going to help you, and we're going to fill the dome. That was our goal, is to fill the dome. So I was able to get the alumni. We brought 43 alumni wrestlers back. We went to every high school, said, hey, come to the match. And one night, we had all the alumni. We honored the old coach, and we had the most people ever come and watch a junior college match at this college. So it's something that we were proud of. And I don't know if you heard last year, Fresno State had a wrestling match on the aircraft carrier on the Midway down in San Diego. So FCA Wrestling was a big sponsor of that. We brought out Dan Gable and Jay Robinson and stuff like that, and had an aircraft match right on the aircraft carrier. We're doing that again. We have at our wrestling tournament, at our state meet, we have what we call the Gathering of Champions luncheon. So we know that in between the semifinals and the finals, everyone's got to go eat sometime, right? So what better, why not? Have a luncheon right there. So we bring in all great Christian wrestlers. We honored John Acevedo last year. So in between the semis and finals, we put on a thing and talk about FCA wrestling. So those are some of the things that we're trying to do. The world team, before they go to the World Championships, they're coming to San Diego. So they're going to come for a training camp there, so I'm going to help them and try to be their chaplain while they're in San Diego with the goals of helping them, because FCA, like I said, Christian, God's working, man. God's working on that. So our goal is to have every college team have a chaplain like Bobby. Things like this. Virginia Tech has it. So these are some of the things that we're trying to do. And everybody look at me, this is what Carl always says. He says it's not about money, we're not doing it for the money. But what God has called us to do, it takes money. So to put on all this stuff that Bobby does, I'm amazed that, you know, putting people up in hotels and doing all this stuff for one reason, to serve you. Because we know that the high school wrestling coach is the most influential person in America. So we want to help you. So this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, Greg, and also too, which I'll let you say something because I know you want to say something. But Greg, also too, I should get an opportunity to go to Ukraine with FCA Wrestling and support the FCA Wrestling guy in Ukraine, which was incredible. I was there for a week and it was amazing. I want to go back this summer. Our super region for North Carolina, South Carolina is the Middle East and Northern Africa. We're looking about going to Israel to bring wrestling there. We have Turkey, we have Iran. It's amazing how you get in the door of countries because of wrestling. And even crazy, and I know there's a lot of turmoil in there, but we're looking to go to Israel with wrestling, and you know, that's a possibility for coaches and athletes. You know, because that's our region, our super region. And some of you guys know that. I've talked to you about that. You know, just trying to think. Kevin,
Carl's got, like, if you got kids that are looking to do like mission trips and stuff, I mean, these guys will take young guys with them to go and wrestle. You get that guys to some upper level high school kids and some junior and some college kids to wrestle when they went to Ukraine. So, I mean, if you got kids that are interested in stuff like that, it's a great opportunity.
And also too, Greg, I'm trying to like get people to be chaplains for NC State. Like John Mark Bentley called me this year and said, hey, how do I do this? I have somebody, so he has a guy that I talked to multiple times about, so we're just trying to help and serve. And you know, this year I think during the season, I think I went to 18 different like wrestling rooms, and it's hard when you're doing UNC and doing that. I went to dual meet Butch Wrestling Newton Conover, and I drove all the way out there, and you know, Eddie let me talk to his team when I got there, and then Butch let me talk to his team before they wrestled, and so it's really amazing these different opportunities you know you get to have, and that was really cool and stuff. And, so Butch, I'll let you. Butch wanted to say something, if that's okay with you.
Well, listen, it's not, I know Bobby won't do this, okay? He never asked for any money, but for him to survive and for the FCA to wrestle to continue, he has to have money. And he has a site, and what I would like to ask y'all to do is pray about this, that you would come on board. It's like a monthly dollar. And you don't have to give a whole lot of money. If you just look at, if you could possibly spare $10 a month, you could put it on your credit card so it comes off each month. And if 10 people gave $10, that's $100 a month that's going toward the FCA wrestling. And so I know he wouldn't, and I don't like to come up and ask for money from people either. I understand that, but when I preach, sometimes I get off on that. And then after you see people kind of sticking their hands in their pockets and they think, you know, I don't talk about my money. But you know what? It's like Jose said, it takes money to run, and it takes money to do this. And so what I would ask is to be in prayer, that you would come on as a monthly donor, $5, $10, whatever the Lord would lead upon your heart. But not only just y'all, is maybe go back with some literature and show some people in your community and some of the other coaches in the area what's going on, and maybe ask them, you know, would you be interested in maybe being a $5 or $10 a month donor, or whatever the Lord lays upon your heart. And so Bobby didn't ask me to do this. I come in this morning asking him to do it because just for some reason about 1 o'clock this morning, all of a sudden I started thinking about that, and you know, I am a monthly donor, but my kids are gone from home. Okay, so I'm in a little different situation than some of y'all. But I would ask you to just pray and maybe see what the Lord would lay upon your heart to become one of those donors.
And what I do is I try to find, I'm looking for successful businessmen that wrestle the time, I said, can you look back at your life and say that the lessons that you learned from wrestling helped you become successful? What did they all say? Heck yeah. And then I said, did you have a coach in your life that made a difference, that you can look back without him? I think everyone always says, yes. So it's the businessman, because everything's tax deductible, that's the businessman that we really want, that maybe you can't do it, and maybe you know someone who's been successful, that's been a wrestler. And you say, hey, this is our ministry. It's not our ministry. It's our ministry. We all have the same plans, right? So, think about that.
Hey, Coach, one thing we're doing at our club, I put before my board, the club that we can come on board and support FCA wrestling. Because I know if I called Bobby, he would come, and he wouldn't charge us a dime to come and run something for us. But if we went to a camp, you pay for a camp if you went to a camp. So why not go ahead and support